G'day and welcome. It's Tuesday afternoon in Melbourne. Not just Melbourne, this is going everywhere. So episode 25 of So What's Been Happening. Bring up a good mate of ours, Cuz. How are you, Cuz?
G'day, Az. How are you, mate?
Tuesday good,
afternoon, mate. Pretty special.
Afternoon.
Pretty special bloke we got coming on.
Absolutely. Nothing like an early start, mate. We've jumped the blocks early. A couple of minutes early. I'm sure that won't distract your 1,000 viewers, mate, that you're going to get on. So great to have this one's been a little while in the making. I put out to your network to say, who we can get on and who you know and all those kind of things. And you not being a name dropper gave me no one for the first 25 shows. So I'm glad you've come up with a big gun, though. I'll give you that one. We've been looking forward to this one. Tell us a little bit about this guest, mate, and then we'll bring him on.
Look, he's probably one of the most genuine people you'd meet, mate. Like, you look at him, you think he comes across as pretty laid back, and that's how he is. He's just a very honest and genuine bloke, and I've been lucky enough to know him for probably the best part of 35 years. So, look, he's a lovely bloke, and he's always has time for everybody. From the man at the top of the tree to the man planting the seeds. He's very down to earth and very genuine, and a good bloke. I'm very proud to call him, mate.
Righto, mate. Who are we talking about?
Talking about the great Jason Richardson, mate.
G'day, Richo. Welcome aboard, mate.
It's brilliant to be aboard. I didn't even recognise who we were talking about then, Cuz. I was thinking, who is this bloke? This is quite a remarkable introduction. Aaron, believe it or not, I've known Cuz and been mates with Cuz since we played footy together. And I'm going to say under 13s, and you'd look at him and you look at me and you probably think they can't be the same age because I am breathtakingly good looking and he's looks about 30 years older than me. But
exactly.
We played footy together from about under 13s onwards. We were lucky enough to play under 19 footy together. We won a premiership for D. Lascelles in the A-grade amateurs, and we were undefeated that year. We had a great bond of a whole lot of fantastic, like-minded people who all went to school together. And so it's brilliant to catch up with you, Cuzzy boy. And also, I think you guys are doing great stuff with this stuff. So the question I'm going to ask you is, why did it take 25 episodes and what's been bloody happening in your lives?
Well, mate, as said, who do you know? And I said, mate, I know nobody. But then the great name came up and he goes, oh, how do you know him? And I said, oh, mate, I've known him for years. Mate, the only reason we started doing this was when the initial COVID happened, and it was just to get blokes initially, a bit later as well, just to get on and talk and experience sort of stuff what they're going through. And then we've had a lot of local artists on, musicians on come on, and it's been fantastic. Like, it's amazing how connected and how like-minded we are in our situations. But until you have this sort of forum and talk about it, you don't realise. So yeah, been really good.
And how is everyone coping? I know, Cuz, you've had your tough times, and I know there's a lot of guys out there that are having tough times. It's great that we're talking about that. I consider myself really lucky in that space, but how's everyone going? I know it's, this little bloody lockdown 530 that Daniel's whacked us back in. I know it's tested a lot of people because, my youngest daughter's 14 and she sent me a text when she heard the news and just, Dad, I just don't want to go back into lockdown, and she was in tears. So it's tough for the kids, but it's also really tough for the parents.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, mate, our wheelhouse, our age, we're all similar in age, we don't want to talk about it. We'll put on that facade, especially as blokes, that, oh, yeah, it's okay. But what we've found from this and the friendships that I've garnished through this meeting, some musos and that, we all actually do want to talk about it. Like, once you hear someone else speak about it and you think, oh, shit, I can relate to that. Oh, yeah, my wife and I are having that same situation at home or whatever, and you find kindred spirits who you wouldn't have thought were kindred spirits. And that's what it's been. Looking like as is a great mate, and it was his idea, and I sort of just jumped on board, and it's been fantastic. And some of the people we've had on, it's been so rewarding. Like, we had Matt Cronin came on, Pat Cronin's dad, the One Punch.
Yep.
And to listen to him speak was, and that's why we do it. Like, and he's thanking us for the opportunity to come on and speak. Like, makes you feel pretty good about what you're doing. So, and that's why we do it.
Keep up the good work, boys. What are we going to talk about?
Appreciate that, Richo. Well, let's go back to a little bit of that sporting prowess. And obviously, as a youngster, was athletics in the veins, or how did that all come about? And I know obviously we just touched on that you played a bit of footy, but what else did you play as a kid?
Mate, I played pretty much everything, as all kids did back in, the era that we grew up. We were so lucky to grow up in an era where kids played backyard cricket when you came home from school, and you played footy in the street when you came home from school. Or, nowadays I just see so many kids in front of devices and the like, in front of screens, and it's just a totally different world. That's not a criticism of them. It's just a changing world. So for me, I've had one older sister and a younger brother. I was just a sports fanatic, like obsessed by it as a young kid. Sunday was a special day because World of Sport was on. So my aspirations in my entire life is I wanted to be a professional athlete in any sport that I was good enough to be. And if I couldn't be a professional athlete, I would wanted to be a commentator talking about professional sport. Initially as a young guy, when I was basically before I went to De La Salle, where cousin and I went to school. So before I went to high school, I was a junior, did little athletics, did footy, did cricket. But that was back in the day when sport, you had a summer sport, which mine was athletics more than cricket. And then you had a winter sport, and that was footy. Footy was my number one passion. Absolutely loved my footy, obsessed by footy. Could tell as a kid, every team's numbers all the way through, could list every player of every club, just, studied it, fanatical about it, obsessed by it, loved cricket, loved watching cricket, didn't play as much because I was doing athletics and I was pretty good at it as a junior, and then went to high school. In high school, I was, pretty good as a junior athlete, year 7, year 8, year 9. And then unfortunately, I had a challenge that Cuz he probably knew about it. I was a year older than him at school, so he probably knew about it, but probably didn't process it because we're all so young. Believe it or not, in year 12, I was 4'11" and 41 kilos, and I was prepubescent. So I had my whole year 12 year as that skinny, tiny little kid, to the point where I was holding a sign at school, and when you're playing footy and you're prepubescent in an era that we grew up, where everyone would come off the field and go and jump in the showers, that wasn't a good time for me. So I had ice packs, any reason not to get in the showers because I was so embarrassed about how small and immature I was. So therefore, I went basically fell by the wayside in footy. I had a really tough years in year 11 and 12 because I was so small. Athletics, I stopped doing aths as I was really battling because I was so small, and everyone was big, hair under their arms, hairy legs, growing beards, and I was really, really small. So that was a bit tough. So it wasn't actually until after school that I was actually really able to, when I started to grow, and the year after year 12, believe it or not, I grew a foot and put on 40 kilos, that I actually started to feel a bit better about getting back into sport.
And then that's awesome. And then what happened from there in relation to athletics? When did you really get into your aths?
So I was sort of competing at state champs, etc., as a junior, and then I had that period when I was really small where I gave it away and didn't do anything. Believe it or not, I tried out in year 12 for our De La Salle 4x1 relay team, and I didn't make the team because I was so minute. And
Can you remember who was in the team, mate?
Yeah, I can remember. I think Chris Burke was in the team, Andrew Saunders, John Ford, and Italian kid Nick Maniatis. I reckon they were the 4x1. And then the following year, I grew. I wanted to play footy. My true love was footy, and I had 2 years of under-19s, and in the second year of under-19s at DLA, that was the year that I was reflecting on, that we were unbeaten and won the premiership, which is still great memories. It's only amateur footy, but at the time, it was huge for us. And actually, during that time, I was coached by a guy called Brian Brown, and Brian Brown's a fantastic human, as Cuz would tell you all about.
Yeah, great.
His brother was a guy by the name of Chris Brown, who's fantastic, and he ran third in the 1976 Stawell Gift. Anyway, he used to come down and watch us play in the 19s, and I was pretty quick, and he kept saying, "Mate, you should take up aths again. You should do aths." And I reckon it wasn't until a couple of years after under 19s that I was playing amateur footy, and I realised that I wasn't going to be an AFL footballer. Like, it took me a little longer to realise in my mind that everyone else realised. And I was destined to be good at something. And he said to me, "Mate, I think you should be doing athletics. You've got to come back and do some tracks." So he kept talking to me about it. So I started to go down and do some sessions when I finished the footy season that year, and picked up where I left off. So I hadn't basically done athletics for about 5 years, I think, properly, and got straight back into it. Suddenly I'd grown, I was strong, and trained hard. Like, when I look back at my aths career, I was big on training. I was small on ability, but big on training. So, and it pretty much clicked, Aaron, straight away after that. I just suddenly had to move footy aside, because I was, I started to concentrate on aths and started to go up through the ranks pretty quick.
Let's fast forward. Sorry, Caz, go, man.
Dad, he trained my old man. So Dad in his day, if you look at Peter Cohen, you wouldn't think he was a runner. He was actually a pretty good runner back in the day, and he trained Dad. And remember Frank DiMartino, who played Richardson North? He trained them, and they were both pretty good runners. So so it's in the Browns' blood, I think, the running.
Oh, it certainly was. I mean, Frank, Chris's dad, won a Bendigo gift, and he was the journalist, and for the Herald Sun. So my first year of going up to the Stawell Gift, there was a 100-metre race for those people who hadn't won any other races before. It's called the Bill Howard Handicap. It's named after a dual Stawell Gift winner. And I went up there in my very first year of Stawell and was bloody lucky enough, in brackets good enough, lucky enough to win. And that then said to me, Chris, and that was only really after about 8 weeks training, and Chris said, "Mate, you've got to give up what you're doing for footy. You're going to get injured, and let's be honest, you're not going to make it as a footballer. But you can seriously do something in athletics." So that's when I started really concentrating and zero in on it.
What year was that, the Bill Howard?
That was 92. So
okay. The year before the big one. So that was your first run at Stawell in 92.
Yeah, 92. Yeah. So fantastic. Won the Bill Howard, and then Chris Brown, which is he's such an important part of my athletic story, and a great fella, and still a passionate DLR boy. His son Andrew was diagnosed with leukemia at about the age of 6, and I remember, straight after I'd won the Bill Howard at Stawell, he came up to me and he said, "Oh, mate, I can't coach anymore because this is what's happening to Andrew. Andrew's got leukemia. One of the other boys, Michael, I think, has to do, bone marrow transfer. I mean, the whole family was just in disarray. You can think about that now. I mean, we're lucky parents. Touch wood that kids have been healthy. Imagine how much that rocks your world. So I sat down with him and he said, "Mate, you've got to keep doing your ATHSO. So this is the guy that I think you should go to, a guy by the name of Graham Goldsworthy. He trained guys who had placed in the previous Stawell Gift finals, and I just had a really single-minded focus that I wanted to win the Stawell Gift. I thought it would take me a couple of years to get to that level, but believe it or not, I trained my butt off, and they gave me the novice handicap. And in 1993, Aaron, what did we say? Yeah, 57 steps to Redeemer Nation.
Righto, we got a bit of footage from the great moment.
Stawell Gift for 1993. The hard held Stawell Gift is being introduced to the crowd here, making their way down towards the start very quickly. The field, the red, Dean Capobianco from scratch. Josh Kuhl, 5 1/4. Craig Ferber, 7 metres. Jason Richardson, 7 1/2. He's the favourite. Tony Martin, 8 3/4. And Malcolm McDowell off 9 1/2. A big round of applause for Dean Capobianco.
With man in the yellow, the Raging Gift favourite, Michael, Jason Richardson.
Well, there's an air of confidence about this fellow. I like the way that he sort of strutted down there. He sort of believes he can win. He won the Bill Howard here at Stawell last year, so nerves aren't going to upset this. But it's going to be a race in 3. Really looks to be the pink, out of the pink and the yellow. And watch out for that red, storming home.
Well, you saw the interview with McDowell. He was very, very keen. He said, "They've got to beat me," he said. But we'll soon know. They're set, ready to go for the 1993 Hard-Held Stawell Gift. They settle down now. Bianco sitting up a little bit in the blocks. And Chapman has them. This is the big one. The one we've come for. And away they go. Papa Bianco away well. Cool quickly in a stride with Ferber. Richardson then coming Martin McDowell. He's a great go. The yellows in front. It's Richardson hoeing away. Coming at him again. McDowell. Richardson in front. Richardson beat McDowell. And third aim then would have been Josh Cool. And Dean Capabianco, who couldn't do it from Tony Martin.
Well, Jason Richardson has won the Stawell Gift in emphatic fashion. A great training effort by Graham Goldsworthy. That's his first Stawell Gift winner. You know, Jason's overcome stress fractures in his feet to win the 1993 Stawell Easter Gift. He's run a sensational 11.94, and you can see Jason's in there somewhere.
What a moment. What a moment. Jason's in there somewhere. I love that.
Can we talk about the hair, mate?
Yeah. Well, mate, I ran that fast, it blew off. That's
Clearly.
And I'm glad you took up the hat memo, mate, because there's not much spread out there too. So Cuz is the only one that's got us covered.
I got the memo. Mate, great memories there. And Chris Brown, we've just spoken about, was in that huddle. Dean Capabianco, who was in red, who's a great mate of mine, who'd won the gift in 1990 and ran 5th in a World Championship 200-metre final, believe it or not, about 4 months after that gift final. He was in it, so that made it even more special. And I was lucky enough to come back the following year and win the backmarkers race for the guys right at the back, which is a great thrill. So there's only been a couple of people been able to win all three of those things at Stawell, which I'm proud of. So that was awesome, and actually it inspired me to give up work, to put everything on hold, and I thought, you know what, the one thing I want to do when I'm 40, 50, 60 is not say, what if? So I gave up everything, sold basically everything I had, gave up work to be a full-time athlete, and for the next 5 years sort of travelled the world, competed against Michael Johnson, Ben Johnson, Linford Christie, the likes, and worked out that I wasn't good enough. But by gee, I had a lot of fun trying to be good enough. So that's my message for kids out there. You know what? Just have a go. And my motto has always been bite off more than you can chew, and just chew like hell. Because I found out that I was not good enough. I wasn't talented enough to mix it at Olympic level with Carl Lewis, Ben Johnson, Linford Christie. But tell you what, it was just bloody great having a crack at it and working out how far off the absolute best you were. And so I can sit back and look at a pretty average athletics career with no regrets at all.
Oh, it's absolutely great advice. And it's interesting to hear that, you talked about the training and you didn't think you had the skill set necessarily, but training, and you gave everything that. And that's such great advice for any youngsters out there in the littles, out there having a crack. And just on that, so good to see that, you there really pushing to keep this event. I know through my work commitments, making uniforms for little athletes for so many years, to see them up there running at Stawell is such an important part of Stawell. And just tell us a little bit about, how Stawell's progressed now. I mean, look at the event that it's turned into.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. 150 plus years. Look, the state government supporting the Stawell Gift and have for a 5-year period, but part of the conditions of that support, because they realise it's an iconic race. It's so important for that part of Victoria to try to get so many. I mean, the town's sold out each and every Stawell Gift. It's vital for the community there, and it's such a special place, and it's such a special race. I mean, it's live television coverage on Channel 7, which I'm lucky enough to be part of the coverage there, before Hawthorn versus Geelong every Easter Monday, with 1 million viewers watching. So from an athletics point of view, it's vital. From a local tourism and local community, it's important. And also the message of, health and well-being for all these athletes, great athletes that you're showing at the moment. So the government said, listen, we will commit to a 5-year support of this gift, but we want you to change your structure, and your structure needs to change. We want to put a board above the Stawell Athletic Club just to help provide some expertise in particular areas. Martin Pakula, the Minister for Sport, rang me and said, can you go onto the board? And I said, yeah, I'd love to help out any way I can. So with a bit of broadcast expertise and my old job as in the marketing space. So really enjoyed it. And it's great that we've announced that we've got a 5-year major sponsor, plus a 5-year television deal. So the gift is going to live on hopefully for another 150 years, but we're getting it back on track to make sure the best athletes go along. It keeps staying on telly, and we keep sending the messages out there for, good active lifestyle for our community.
Fantastic. And 3rd to 5th of April. If you haven't been up there, it's an amazing couple of days. It's absolutely super. Great fun. And boy, see some talent.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant, mate. It's and that little athletics actually is really important part of it, trying to get the next generation. And, what Athletics Australia has done at the moment with the blend, the merging of Athletics Australia and Little Aths Australia. So now the new body being Australian Athletics is so important for the future of this sport, because I tell you what, this sport, I mean, if you want to go to the Olympic Games, that is a huge carrot for young athletes. But what we're finding for both men and women, especially women in recent times, but men in particular, is trying to attract that A-class athlete to choose athletics. And at the moment, in all the private schools in Melbourne and all the high schools in Victoria, kids, the number one athletes tending to pick footy. And we've got to get to a position in athletics where we can show a clear pathway that, hey, if you want to choose athletics, this is a pathway where you can represent your country. You can go to the Olympic Games. You can compete in the biggest sporting event every 4 years. Yes, it's hard to say no to a lot of money you can in AFL footy, but that is pretty unique. The Olympic Games is pretty unique. It's a big dream. So hopefully our sport can get together and really work hard on that.
Yeah, also one thing, I mean, running's, there's no doubt it makes your footy better, and it makes all sports better. If you do athletics in summer and then go and play footy in winter, we've had many players come through the AFL now that have gone through littles and then into the athletics seniors from there. So there's no doubt if you can do that, it'll definitely help. So just getting that pathway and the connection. But
is that the issue, mate, that there isn't a structured pathway per se? Is that it gets a bit clouded once you get past the sort of high school level?
Well, I think the pathway, Cuz, is it's hard work. I mean, athletics is hard, and also it's essentially on your own. So the enjoyment factor that you play when you go to your local footy club, or you're playing AFL footy and you're surrounded by 40 blokes or 40 women if you're playing AFLW, this is, if you get a training squad, that's great. But so much of what you have to do, and that is your diet, your physical support of yourself through medical, but also through preparation, and that is preparation pre and post your training, plus the hours required to train. There's a lot of times when you're on your own. For me, as a really social person, I found that hard. So I always surrounded myself with people, but nothing replicates a team effort. So, you saw the vision of me winning the Stawell Gift and all my mates jumping around. They got a lot of satisfaction on it, but at the end of the day, it was me, as much as I tried to share it with them. So whereas in a footy premiership, it's us. So that's hard for people. It's hard for a 17-year-old boy who's going to Marsland College with Glenn Curran's kids and says, I'm pretty good at footy, I'm pretty good at aths, I'm good at cricket, but I get to go and play footy with my mates and I can earn $80,000 AFL in my first year up to $1 million, or I can choose athletics for 10 years. I'm going to be on the dole, but I might get a chance to go to the Olympics if I'm good enough. That's a hard dream to sell.
Yeah,
sure. When you put it like that, it's as much as that's making it like chalk and cheese. It is a lot chalk and cheese, though, isn't it? It's poles apart when you look at the two, I suppose, choices.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can remember being like in an extended, a training group leading into one of the Olympic Games, and my wife went to 2 Olympic Games, and she won a Commonwealth gold medal in the 5,000 metres in '98. So she was a jet, but
Lost him. No sound.
Just lost your audio there for a sec, Jace. I think we're back.
Yeah, I got a phone call, which is disappointing.
All good.
And I tell you what, and this is a real concern for athletics. The majority of the Australian athletics team going towards an Olympic Games were putting in their dole forms before jumping on a plane. That's a tough scenario, but that's just the reality of doing a sport that is not a mainstream sport with millions of dollars of television revenue and also sponsorship revenue. It's just a harsh reality of the sport that I chose to do and others choose to do. So it's a huge challenge for athletics, but it's a great sport. It's a great foundation sport, but taking Aaron's point, it's a great foundation sport for other sports. So hopefully we get lots of kids involved.
Yeah, definitely. And let's switch to one of your other big loves, the media now.
Yeah.
And obviously the radio was one of your big loves at one stage with one of our good mates, Half. I know you had a great time on SEN and met so many great people. I always loved the Friday afternoon chats with you, Rita, and Half. I mean, they were just all-time great fun, and I'm sure they were great times for you. Are you in the radio at all now?
No, I'm not. It breaks my heart that I'm not. I don't know why I'm not. I'm available if selected, but for some reason, I don't know, all the chairs moved around and the musical chairs. Next thing you know, I looked around. There was no chair available for me. I think I had a bit of conflict with, I've got a contract with Channel 7 and I've got a contract with racing.com. So there was a challenge trying to blend it all in. At the moment, I haven't been able to blend radio back in. I'm desperate to do it because it's a medium that I absolutely love. Yeah. And I had incredible fun doing it. And it's my advice to any young broadcaster out there that wants to get into the media, and I'm telling everyone who I work with in television at the moment is young and passionate about it, get into radio. It teaches you so many lessons in regards to, turn of phrase, but also in regards to holding an audience for a length of time. I think the craft that you can learn through radio is, exceptional. So, I really missed my time in radio, and hopefully it'll come back soon.
Yeah, and you've just come off a great Big Bash introduction for yourself. How's that been?
I loved it. I mean, I love the opportunities that I've been given at Seven. Seven have supported me so much, whether it be, hosting coverage of the Big Bash, which was just brilliant, and I've done that for the last 3 seasons. Women's Big Bash is awesome. I've been lucky enough to host our coverage of the World Championships swimming, lucky enough to, be involved hosting coverages of Olympic Games and Winter Olympics. So I love sport, mate. I love every aspect of it. There's so many things. I mean, the Winter Olympics was just about the best thing I ever did. I just thought it was incredible. I've grown up with a staple of Summer Olympics, but the Winter Olympics was incredible. The atmosphere of the athletes and their attitudes. So, mate, I've just been so lucky and so blessed. And I remember where I come from. Don't worry, and I make sure I keep working hard.
Yeah, really important points and great advice too. And how special are these moments to be, up close and one-on-one with such icons of our game, and being not only being able to have a chat to them on air, but obviously you get the opportunity then off air to have a little bit of a chat, I'm sure, and great friendships.
It's interesting, I'd love to have said to the 12-year-old me, this is what I was going to be doing, and I think the 12-year-old me would be so excited. Catching up with David Warner, or that you just showed a picture of, and Tim Payne, a fantastic guy. Our Winter Olympians when they win a medal, etc. But for me now at my age, I mean, I must admit I'm not a starstruck sort of guy. I don't think I've ever asked an athlete for a selfie. Who would I ask? I might ask Roger Federer for a selfie. He might be a guy that I would ask. Maybe. Would I ask Tiger Woods? Probably wouldn't. Might ask Muhammad Ali if he was still with us. But the rest of the time, it's just sort of work, and I've got to know some of our really great athletes. So I just like to think of them as friends more than anything. And it's if they treat me with respect and I always just, one of my other mottos is just treat people the way they treat you. So it's fantastic to be up close and personal with some of the athletes that are changing the game at the moment, whatever sport. And they've all got pretty similar attributes, and that is an obsession with excellence. And I think we can learn a lot from that.
Yeah, definitely. And then into racing now as well. You can tell your genuine love for racing, and not only that, but the colour and everything that goes with racing. You're a great part of that coverage.
Yeah, mate, I love it. And also I love, I love to try to walk in their shoes and think of the excitement. We saw it last week when Jamie Carr won the Lightning Stakes with Nature Strip, and it was her 4th career Group 1. And here's a girl who grew up in South Australia. Her parents were, believe it or not, her father was a Winter Olympian in short track speed skating, and there she is now an unbelievable jockey. She's leading the premiership by 23 wins. She wins a Group 1, her 4th Group 1. She's the 2nd most successful female jockey in history, and she's only in her early 20s. I love to try to get into her space. I'm excited for her. Hopefully that comes through when I'm interviewing her. But I'm excited for them because, they're living the dream, mate. I'd give up everything I've ever achieved in sport to go through it again, to try to do it again, because when you're actually in there doing it, that's the great stuff.
Yeah. And do you think, looking back on say, even the Stawell Gift for you, do you realise in that particular moment how big a moment that really is? Or do you not realise that till after your career and those kind of things?
I think you appreciate it more as you get older. I think you work out the context of it. I think at the time you love every moment of it because it's exciting. But the most insecure people in the world are athletes in any sport, because you're always trying to achieve something else. So, I won the Stawell Gift, and, I watched some of the interviews. I just cringe because the first thing I'm talking about is I want to go to the Olympics, and I want to come back and win another Stawell Gift. And, it's like you're never satisfied. It's same as, the best Australian 100-metre runner wants to run in the Commonwealth Games. And then if he wins the Commonwealth Games, he wants to win the World Champs. And if he wins the World Champs, he wants to win the Olympics. You're never satisfied. And even then you get to the Usain Bolt sort of era and they want to be the greatest ever. So I think that's a part of any athlete at any level, that you'll find that, from the elite level up in particular, I think that they're all just striving to be better and better. They're never satisfied. I think we can learn a lot from that.
And speaking of being better, there's not many better, is there, than the great Bruce?
He's the best, mate. He's simple. I learn so much from him every single day I work with him. Preparation is incredible. He handwrites. So we'll work together on a race meeting, and I'll look across at his notes, and he'll have his book there. And I did a segment once. We had to go. We were working together during the championships up in Sydney, and Usain Bolt was here. No, it was Oaks Day, and Usain Bolt was on course. So then Bruce was going to do a one-on-one with Usain Bolt. So they said, "Oh well, Bruce will tap out, and you host for half an hour until Bruce comes back." So I was just hosting our coverage, but Bruce left his book there, this big, thick book. And I'm there saying on air, have a look at this. Like, everything was handwritten on every possible thing you could think of, every scenario that could happen on that race day. The horse's name, the jockey, the significance of that jockey won, the significance of the trainer won, the significance from the breeding point of view of that horse, the dam side, the farm that had bred it, how many Group 1s that horse had won, how much prize money, where he sat in the overall Australian prize money list, what about the jockey, everything. And he does that for day after day after day, for sport after sport. So what you see as the end product is no coincidence, mate. It's bloody hard work, and to boot, he's an incredible human.
Yeah, I remember meeting Bruce at the tennis once. I used to work at the tennis and seeing backstage in the media area, and this is early 90s, and it was almost fax back in the day, and Bruce would just have this little just the constant paper moving, and he was keen on reading every one and getting it all organised. He was absolutely ready to go. So you couldn't find a better apprenticeship to work with. Yeah, it's must be great. But what's your favourite kind of sport to commentate really at the moment, or you're kind of happy with anything because you're just a sports lover?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do footy. I've never done footy, but I just haven't been able to blend it in. I'd love to get involved. I've been lucky enough to host game day a couple of times on Seven, so that is something on the bucket list, mate. I'd love to do a game show. Believe it or not, I'd like to. Couldn't you just see it, Kaz?
Oh,
Come on down.
Like you would be all over that like white on rice, mate.
Oh, I'd love to do that. From a sport, mate, I literally love it all. There's no sport that I've covered that I don't like. You know, I was thrown into host our Australian Golf Open coverage 2 years ago, and I love my golf. So there's really nothing that I could be thrown into that I wouldn't get a lot of enjoyment out of.
Yeah, I think you would have been good on that Holy Moly show, mate.
How did I miss? You know,
exactly.
The fact that Shervo went to, mate, surely they haven't. I mean, Shervo's faster. He was faster than me. That's a
could have
worry.
ran you with Shervo, surely.
Yeah, Shervo. I don't know. He ran 10.0. He was a freak. He made a Commonwealth game final in the 100 metres and ran fourth. He was better than me, mate. He was a superstar.
He was very good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the next challenge is for you, is the Olympics.
I mean, we keep hearing that the Olympics is going to go ahead. So, fingers crossed that it can go ahead. And, I'll be supposedly one of the guys on the ground getting the great pleasure of interviewing all the athletes. So that would be huge if I could. Am I keeping you up, Kaz? Did you just yawn, mate? Am I boring you at all?
Not at all,
You want me to go back? Okay. I understand what's going on here.
I'll apologise for him.
No, Aaron. What's going on here is that's his signal to say, stop talking about yourself. Let's go back to the under-19s, our grand final, because Old Zavarians had this dangerous forward called George Gorozides, and we were thinking, who amongst our lineup was extremely untalented, so that if he didn't get a kick, it wouldn't really affect the rest of the team. But he would pinch and scratch and gouge and annoy the hell out of this bloke that this bloke wouldn't get a kick for the day. So it was unanimous. It was Cuz, and he held him to. Did he get a kick at all, Cuz?
He kicked one goal, and it was possibly the best goal I've ever seen.
I might have over promoted you.
He kicked the goal from. We're both running towards the boundary line. The ball bounced. As the ball bounced, he kicked it from midair over his shoulder, and he said, "Should I look, cousin?" I said, "No, don't look, George. It'll go in anyway."
So back on the Olympics for 2 secs, mate. Is there one of those weird kind of sports out there that's you've been potentially going to be thrown in the ring to go out and follow? What's new in the Olympics this year? There's a couple of sports there.
Yeah, there's a couple of sports that are a disgrace that they're in the Olympic Games. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. Come on, man. There's
no boxing, is that right?
Well, you know what?
Next
boxing,
summer?
It needs to be the pinnacle of the sport to be in it, in my opinion.
But it's always been one of those sports. The amateur boxers, that's where they were. It was the boxing box. That was one of those things. Boxing, weightlifting, they were all the ones that everyone looked forward to. Big Darryl Eastlake was there, and it's all happening.
That's right. Well, boxing. You think of Teofilo Stevenson, who won 3 Olympic gold medals in a row as a heavyweight boxer from Cuba. That Fidel Castro wouldn't let him turn pro, and good boxing judges say that he would have been the challenger to Muhammad Ali, but he was stuck in the amateurs because Castro said, "You got to fight for the glory of Cuba." Muhammad Ali got his start in boxing through the Olympic Games, so it has a role to play. When I hear that we're doing breakdancing's getting involved in the Olympic Games, when I hear that rock climbing and things like that, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, let's keep it real. I mean, there's got to be. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to attract the next generation of sports fans. But come on, there's got to be a level where you say, listen, you just go on. That's what the X Games is for. You go and do that. But the Olympic movement, I think, is just simply got to be better than it. But if I'm thrown, Aaron, I can assure you, if I'm thrown the breakdancing to cover, my rhythm section, I can assure you, was outstanding. And I used to cut a major rug back at Silver's back in the day. So I will be out there and I will dominate.
I think you might put the jersey on for Australia there. That would be huge.
Can you maybe that they can mic me up and I can commentate plus also do some moves.
Absolutely, you'd have to get yourself in there with a bit of beatboxing for sure.
And how did you get into the horse racing? Because I know you obviously like it, being a Catholic and a DLR boy, it sort of goes hand in hand. That'd be some sort of affinity there. But did you fall into that a bit, or
I had the double
there?
Yeah, no, I had the double whammy, cuz whereas you was all the the Catholics and the DLR boys, and there were so many of them here that love their racing. I had the double whammy that my grandmother, her brother was the leading trainer down in Tassie. Her other brother owned a runner, Sunny Lane, which ran in the Melbourne Cup that Might and Power won. Yep. So I was surrounded by, in fact, I had 5 or 6 different cousins who are jockeys or have been jockeys. So that's actually going back to the original story when I was in year 11 and year 12, and I'm 41 kilos and 4'11". I was seriously thinking that maybe a career in racing as a jockey would be where I'd go until the genetics took a turn. So I was always surrounded by racing, and therefore I knew the vernacular. So when I got asked to be involved through a mate of mine, Dr. Turf, for back in the old TVN days to do racing, he knew that I knew racing. So I was a TV guy going into racing as opposed to a racing guy trying to learn TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of people don't give the industry credit, but it survived amazingly well through COVID, didn't it?
Incredible. And what they did is, I think they've got the great strength that they'd been through equine influenza, where they learnt to break down and separate participants and go through the biosecurity measures. So they snapped straight into that. They've got a lot to be proud of. They did an exceptional job keeping racing. They've only missed 1 day of racing in the whole time during COVID. Yep. We're just getting crowds back before the latest lockdown. But to give you an insight, because I was interviewing jockeys during the Spring Carnival, I was doing a COVID test every single day before I went on course.
Yep.
So I can assure you my nostrils are very clean, my friend. So they were willing to do anything to make sure that they stopped COVID getting into the racing game, and they've done a great job making sure that it has kept that way, touch wood.
Yeah, I think we could learn a lot from that advice, that's for sure. To see the latest round of people moving from hotel after this water leak with garbage bags over their heads, it's fair to say we haven't got this sorted yet. We've got a lot to learn in this space. But anyway, that's a chat for another day, Jace.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Anyone that wants to find Jace, Twitter, Jace Richo, and Insta, Jace Richardson 7 is what you're looking for. Anyone that doesn't know Jace, but I'm sure plenty of viewers and listeners will. And Jace, I really appreciate your time, mate. I know this has been a little while in the making, and we'd love to have you another chat on. Maybe when you come back from Winter Olympics would be awesome.
Why don't we do it? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do one live from Beijing during the Winter Olympics February next year? Let's lock it in, and we can do one when I'm up on the top of the mountain, and we can give our audience what's been happening audience the live experience of being in a half pipe or something like that. Let's do that.
Sounds amazing. Well, maybe it's you on that dance floor with the beatbox on your arm, and you're ready to go.
No, thanks for your time, boys. Fantastic to have a chat.
Before you go, Matt, we have, of all the guests we have on, I ask them one question. So you're having a dinner, and you can invite 5 friends. Who are your 5 friends?
So they are friends as opposed to people I'd love to have dinner with?
Because I'd have a pretty good idea who the 5 blokes you'd invite, because I know your best mates.
Yeah. Well, my best mates at school are still my best mates in the world. So, and that's something I cherish.
From any part of life that you would like to meet, and they can be living or dead. It's just 5 people you'd like to spend time with.
Muhammad Ali was the most dynamic sportsman we ever saw. The fact that he could transcend sport. If he wasn't crippled with the illness, and I'm not a boxing fan, if he wasn't crippled with the illness, he potentially could have been president of the United States. I mean, such was his moral compass and such was his ability to hold an audience. So he'd be at the top of the list, and Barack Obama would be sitting right alongside him. Anyone who's got Netflix at the moment, jump on. Dave Letterman does a series that I'd love to copy in racing. My next guest needs no introduction. Sit down and watch his interview with Barack Obama, mate. What an exceptional man he is. So I'd love them there. I'd love to, you feel like Bruce needs to be at every dinner party because he'd be that excited. He could commentate. He'd be asking that many questions, but therefore he might take a bit of the shine off, bit of the gloss off me. But I'd probably cop that. That's probably fair enough. So you want someone from sport. You'd love to have someone from music, but I haven't really been a music guy. I'll put a politician in there. It might be Neon Deion Sanders, who was the most dominant American sportsman that one day he was able to play NFL football, jump on a plane, fly across the country and play a Major League Baseball game, and then jump back on the plane and fly back and play again in the other sport. What he was able to do there is incredible. Imagine balancing being an AFL player and, say, a Test cricketer. He was able to do it for a fleeting period there back in the 90s. So he'd be incredible to sit down and have a chat to. Frankie Dettori's a jockey that I'm obsessed with, and I think he's brilliant. So he would hold court. I've run out of guests, haven't I? Because I'd go on forever like this. I could just keep naming people.
Mate, the best thing about this, mate, the tradition continues. We're up to episode 25. Of all the people we've had on, both male and female, not one has said their partner yet.
Well, I get to have dinner every night with the Commonwealth gold medalists, so I want to be in a room not surrounded by the Commonwealth gold medalists.
Do you dress her as the Commonwealth gold medalist?
Yes. Madame is how she would likes to. And all my three beautiful daughters, I need to get them there up front and centre. In fact, I've got to go and jump in the car and take one of them to go and get their crutches because they've got a navicular hotspot in their feet from athletics, which is a bit disappointing. So, boys, I'm going to have to love you and leave you, but keep up the great work. Hopefully I've put a smile on someone's face today.
No, you sure have, mate.
It's been great having you, mate. Really appreciate it, Jason, jumping on board.
See you guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, mate.
See ya. Bye.
Buddy. Ta-da.
How good was that, cuz? To spend...
What a star.
Oh, super. That was an awesome 50 minutes, mate. I know you probably told him we'll take 15 minutes of your time because you didn't really cue him up for what we'd really do.
Yeah.
And appreciate that. And to be honest, he's got so much to cover. So we could have ran 3 hours with Jace.
Sure.
He's the consummate professional when he's on air. You're exactly right in what you said, and I know you've known Jace since school days. The first guy that would come and say hello to you. The last guy that would say goodbye. Sorry, the last guy when you were to leave, he'd be definitely the one that would say goodbye to you as well. So, look, it's just great, and it's awesome to see him really, flourish, and to see him now get opportunities in sport in this new generation of commentator. And there's no doubt I see a lot of Bruce in him already. So it's already rubbing off.
And I think he'll be a big chance when Bruce drops off the footy for Jace to start straight into that little door.
Absolutely. So he will never only be known as the 93 Stawell Gift champ to us now. He will be always known as one of the best guests so far, no doubt. episode 25 of So What's Been Happening. It was actually episode 24, because we did a bit of switch through. But we'll go with 25 and 24 for now, because I think he could have easily been 2 episodes. So let's run with that. But thanks again, Cuz. It's all been awesome. I know it was a weird time of the day. You know, obviously we don't get an opportunity or a time slot that we can just fill easily with someone like Jace. So it was super to have Jason Richardson on, and look forward to the next chat with the next guest coming up in a week or so.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Lovely touch base.
Cheers, buddy.
Have a good rest of the night. Ta-da.
Have a good night. See you, mate.
Bye.